hope you, I know most of you were probably out sleeping in the pavement for the last week. Again, if you were homeless for a week so that you could get, I don't know, $100 off a TV, don't you think you should have given your home to a homeless person while you're out sleeping on the street, pretending to be them, I suppose? So, didn't do much black shopping Friday. Didn't do any of that stuff. As opposed to the internet, which is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where you can go on things. We actually went to the pet store. It's a big thing for us when the pet store has a sale. So the pet store had some 50% off food. I just want to inform you that Sugar, the Wonder Cat, was, the one I named after a stripper, the one who gets up on the counter and does her little stripper dance in order to just get treats. She's she's a hoe in a fur coat, basically. She might as well just be, I don't know, Gladys Knight. So Sugar's feeling much better, and Sugar usually is always the one that sort of hangs out on the desk and is on what I call the report on my desk and in the studio. So Sugar's back, and she's feeling much better. She doesn't run away. She has a very long memory, and she knows that she was sick for a while, and we had to give her a pill. Or, clean her behind because she wasn't feeling too well. No, I'm talking nice things about you. Don't run away. Okay, I'm saying nice things about her and petting her, and now she's going to run away. So she is back in the studio. Anyway, we went to the pet store, and oh boy, when there's dollar cans of food and lots of litter on sale, that's good. Then went down to Chinatown, get the best haircuts ever for like $8 in Chinatown. And then you go to the Chinese doctor there. Although the challenge is that you have two of these gigantic stores that have all of these Chinese herbs. And now apparently the Chinese doctors are becoming extinct. They're so old and apparently nobody else is learning the art. So, you walk in there and say, well, where's the doctor? Doctor retired. He retired. No doctor. They have no doctor. Oh, he come in 2 hours on Thursday. Like, so you have a wall, half of your store is a gigantic cabinet of herbs. I don't know, deer antler and, pig hooves, and it's basically bugs and sticks. The whole thing is bugs and sticks. Good for you. Drink tea. Good. Bugs and sticks. Good for you. You drink. No more coffee cough. No more fat boy. I'm like, and you drink this stuff, it's like, I'm not even kidding. It's like fellatiating Satan himself. This stuff is just, it's so awful. It goes all the way down. It makes your toes curl. It goes all the way down to your toes, and your toes just go, you know how you do that dance when you drink something awful?
The chicken dance.
Yeah.
You flap your arm up and down.
Yeah, the St. Vitus dance, when you just get something just like, it's similar. Add a couple of more twirls and a few more dozy-does to it, and it's similar to swigging swigging really like 180 proof, hard potato skin Russian vodka. That gives you an idea. Like I said, add a few more twirls to that, a couple of more balleretic moves, and you've pretty much got it. Gosh, we're not really going anywhere this weekend. Gonna go out to Palm Springs. And other things, I was gonna tell you a little bit more about my adventures in New York City, and just to tell you, how this is how weird my life is, and weird and fun actually. I go to New York City to go talk to some people about film financing. We still have these companies that we put together that we're still looking for film financing for, and so we've been talking to a few people about this stuff, and so strangely enough, and this is kind of a true story. I get to, when I'm in New York, even Steven Travesty actually apparently lives somewhere in Manhattan, close to Manhattan somewhere, with his lady friend Beastmaster Esmeralda, and I presume with his dragons and his birds, his lizards, the entire zoo-like menagerie that goes along with Steve everywhere he lives, because he's a bit of a wild man. He looks like a Yeti, kind of. He's just a big, furry, cuddly Yeti. Matter of fact, he doesn't look so much like a Yeti. He looks more like the Abominable Snowman from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Bumbles, Bumbles bounce. That's Steve. So late at night, I'm done with whatever it is I'm doing, and I'm hanging out with Stacy, the stripper economist, who's working somewhere else now. She was not working at a club. I don't go see her when she's working doing her thing. But as I told you, Stacy's an incredibly bright girl until she goes into, and I'm not even sure, and this is what just completely disgusts me about all this, but apparently she also thinks she's Nicki Minaj, I guess. So, which just goes to show you, I mean, you know, this culture where Stacey's one of the smartest girls I know. And I say she's got $1 million ass and $1 billion brain. Until she decides to go all ghetto. Until she decides that somehow she was in fact raised as a small, poor black child. And she goes into this whole thing where she thinks she's a rapper. And she's probably listening to this now. I'm sure she's been very good at it. But I don't know, even rapping, I mean, the rapping I'm used to is like Sugar Hill Gang, you know, hip hop, hip. At least it rhymes. The two best rap songs ever, Sugar Hill Gang's obviously Rapper's Delight, and the Humpty Dance by Digital Underground. Come on, you can't beat either of those because it's a guy dressed up with glasses and a pork pie hat who looks like a pickle on his nose, talking about getting busy in a Burger King bathroom and all that stuff. I mean, come on, best rap songs ever. I mean, what is it with these rap songs where, you know, Little John just, you know, he just yells, yeah, what the what? And he just says the same thing over and over and over again. I'm going to find it, actually. We're going to play it today because JP is here. We're going to play it today, but Monty Python did a parody of this. And I'm going to play this song today. Today's going to be a little unusual. It's a weird day. Just to give you an idea. It's a very strange day because the moon is void of course, as we say. In other words, it's just floating. It's not aspected by either sign of the zodiac. And it's just floating right now between Aquarius, which is the whacked out, mad genius, you know, crazy sign of the zodiac, and Pisces, moving into Pisces, which is the ultimate passive, feminine, submissive. It's the ultimate self-sacrifice sign, but it's also the sign of dreams. It's ruled by Neptune. It's a dreamscape kind of sign. So you never things rarely get any stranger. We got music lined up for kind of weird music day and all that. Things very rarely get any stranger when you have a void of course moon in between Aquarius and Pisces. Nobody can make up their mind about anything. At the pet store, for example, we went shopping for new litter boxes for the cats. And it was just, you know, Melissa was just like, I don't like this one. I don't like that one. I don't like this other one. I'm like, well, this one's nice because the top comes off and it's got a handle and you can flip it up and all that, and it's got a little door and it won't smell. And I don't like it. It built like crap. And all I wonder is if they have Black Friday in China, this is Christmas in China. I just wonder, do little kids in China get Christmas presents and go, oh, thank you, Mommy. Thank you, Daddy. I still remember making this at the factory. Thank you so much. So we couldn't buy litter boxes today. We bought once something was on sale, we bought the on sale food and all that. So, okay, back to New York City. So even Steven and I and Stacy, once again, because she thinks she's a rapper, okay, and the minute she goes into, I was raised a little black child and here's my rap and stuff, and her rap stuff doesn't even rhyme, by the way. And she gets this weird kind of nasal voice. She kind of gets up here like this, yo, yo, yo. And I keep saying, the minute you go into that persona of whatever it is, you have $1 million ass and literally a 2-cent brain. Well, that happens. Anyway, so we're walking around the streets of New York City late at night. And I told you we went to Times Square. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. We went to Times Square for the supposed Ferguson protest. And the Ferguson protest was a group of less than 40 people, of which 2 were black. And that was questionable. We're not talking blackity black. We're talking, cafe mocha black. And that was it. And they're all yelling and jumping up and down. And I actually went in the middle of the crowd and go, yo, where the brothers at? Where are the black people? I thought black people were supposed to be upset by this. Because how, where was all the, how much rioting there was in Los Angeles when O.J. Simpson was acquitted? None. Oh, white people I was so angry at that. I went and tipped over the latte machine at the cappuccino machine at the Starbucks. That made me so angry. So, but in this, we went to go actually, and this is just how my peculiar life goes. A friend of mine who's a fantastic artist named Eric Hope, and he did the cover for part 2 of my book, Sands of Time, the paperback edition. And so he does something where he does artwork or he hangs out or manages or he does something interesting at B.B. King's. B.B. King's has like a House of Blues and barbecue grill or something. It's right off Broadway. And Ace Frehley of Kiss was performing that night. Sans makeup. It was just him. So we show up really late. It's like 1:15, 1:30 in the morning. And we go to the bouncer at the door and he goes, well, everything's closed up and everybody's gone. And I said, well, can I just go in and see if my friend's there? And then he says, yeah, sure, go ahead. So we walk downstairs, and Eric's not there, and all the chairs are put up, and the bar's closed. And this place is huge. I mean, this place has a downstairs that's, I mean, there's 3 different rooms that are ginormous. The one main stage room can hold, oh my goodness, probably 800 people or something. It was a big deal. So there's a group of people actually sitting at a table, and they were just having drinks and whatever, and we went over, and I was looking for my friend. And of course, Stacy's not afraid of anybody. So she starts talking to these guys over at the table. And we walk over to the table, and it's him. It's actually Ace Frehley from Kiss. And they're doing their 40-year anniversary thing. They did a whole big thing on Thanksgiving Day for the parade. And I was a huge Kiss fan when I was in college. And I was actually, this is my claim to fame, and I had a chance late at night to go hang out with Ace Frehley of Kiss, which was just so cool. And I'm hanging out with Ace Frehley, and we're talking about Kiss and the 40 years and all that. And when I was way back when I was in college, Kiss actually did a movie, a full-on movie, not a concert, but a full-on movie. And it was like Kiss versus, I don't even remember what it was like. It was like a Japanese anime thing where Kiss had to destroy monsters with their music or something. I mean, it was totally cheesy, but they did a concert at the end. And my 2 seconds of fame, literally, is that I was in the Kiss movie where they just cut to me, and I was going, yeah! I was just raising my arms above my head, and I just go, yeah! And that was my 2 seconds of fame. So I was actually in the Kiss movie. So I actually had a chance to hang out with one of my guitar rock and roll heroes, Ace Frehley. So it gets weirder. So walking around with Stacy and Steve, and then Stacy goes and does what she does. And this is actually the next night. I think it was late, or actually the first night I got there. So I usually text everybody and just let them know I'm coming to New York. And I'm not sure where the story's going to go because it's a little sad, but there's a psychological aspect to it that I find that I find challenging from the point of view. I am a doctor. I do have a PhD in clinical psychology, actually with a specialty in therapeutic counseling. So of course, talking to people on the radio is perfect. I suppose I should be an agony aunt. I should be Dr. Phil. Well, how does that make you feel? How does it make you feel that you're your own mother? Yeah, whatever. And it's there's a lady friend of mine named Sharon. I don't know. You can't call them girlfriends because then it sounds like there's something going on. So I don't know. Friend girls, I guess. Lady friend girl, what have you. Sharon. And Sharon is a gorgeous, delightful. She looks like a porcelain doll. She's petite, fine features, a beautiful girl. And when I first met her, she wanted to be a dancer and an actress, and she's from Australia. And she was doing ballet. She was doing the jazz dance and all the whole thing. And
where'd you go? Sean, you back? Where's Batman's gone? It's 20 past. It's very rare we ever get a full half hour of completely uninterrupted, non-stop problems. There we go.
And we're back.
What happened?
It's not from my end. I don't know. It just comes. Once again, it's the tamed word, the tamed gentle singularity that we transmit the show to.
I'll have to use 2, one for audio, one for video. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Are we doing video as well? Anyway, so I text people. I text my friends there. So Sharon texts me, and this is late at night. This is like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, "Are you awake?" It's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I come over?" I'm like, "Okay, sure, fine." So I get a knock on my door, and it's my friend Sharon. And the first thing she does is she grabs me and hugs me, and she's sobbing. She's crying. And I was like, "Oh God, Sharon, what is it now?" And you just have to remember it's this girl. Every time I come to New York, she's just such drama, such amazing, stupendous drama. But it gets really strange because now she's apparently seeing and this is where it gets really odd. Again, a very talented, very beautiful Australian girl, probably 26, 27, something like that, who really had a career, I thought, as a dancer, actress, what have you. So for whatever reason, she falls in with this Japanese martial arts teacher, some like Japanese taekwondo guy. And he doesn't speak English that well either. I met the guy once or twice. And he's like, "Oh, English, English." I mean, it's like a job, this guy. On him, and a fat German guy, and he's he'll be taking his bowler hat off and slicing the heads off statues with his hat. And so, for whatever reason, my friend is now his, like, a sex slave or something. But she's been, like, enslaved by this guy. So, and she's like, I can't get away, and I can't stop thinking about him. I'm like, okay, all right. And don't even get me to go into the weird psychosomatic sexual aspect of the Japanese in general. Okay, they're very polite, but it's an interesting culture. Now, I was in Japan for quite some time. I actually lectured up and down Japan. I was teaching remote viewing in Japan way long time ago. This is back in like '94, I guess. Another thing I was in Japan for was also I was all over Japanese television because I had actually predicted that their prime minister at the time that he was going to be out, that he was going to resign, and a man I was doing a reading for, I said, you're going to rise to power somehow. I don't know how it's going to happen, but whoever this gentleman was that I was doing the reading for said this is absolutely impossible, and he came back to me a week later, and then he was something like the assistant prime minister of the country. It became a huge deal in Japan because I saw their prime minister on the TV, and I said, well, he's gone. He's going to be politically assassinated. He's just going to go down. And I also was warning everybody there about the Kobe earthquake, and I was doing readings there telling them this entire area was going to be destroyed, and it was from the Kobe earthquake. It was interesting also because Los Angeles, California represents the throat chakra of the world, the voice of the planet, if you will. And Hermosa Beach, California, is linked to Osaka, Japan, by a gigantic fiber optic cable. And they paid the city in Hermosa $6 million for them to park a ship out there and actually run this gigantic cable that goes from all of the defense stuff here. What was at that time TRW, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Hughes, Raytheon. It's the Valley of Death right here. And when you drive down Aviation Boulevard, you have all these massive aviation companies. Of course, a lot of them have moved to Seattle or other places. But there's a huge fiber optic cable that actually directly connects Osaka, Japan, with Hermosa Beach. So, and the chakra point, the third eye chakra point for the planet, is inland from Osaka. It's near Kobe, actually, inland from Osaka, about 30 miles or so, to a place called Tenri City. And there's a religion that's practiced there called Tenrikyo. And they believe that the area dead center of the Tenrikyo Church is the third eye, is literally the third eye point for the world. And if you look at Japan has you look at the entire aspect of the industry of the nation, it's all about the visual cortex. It's about the visual audio cortex. What do? They make Walkmans, they make audio devices, they make televisions, that all directly relates to the eyes and the ears, which is all third eye kind of stuff. And by the way, the rising sun, the flag of Japan, is actually a red bindu, which is like a red dot on the forehead, which is the rising sun of consciousness. So, anyway, so she's telling me about the fact that she's been, in essence, enslaved by this Japanese guy. And the other thing about New York is that you can literally become a slave in New York because once you get a niche, if you will, if you have somebody that either has a house or owns a condo or has a place to live, once you get comfortable there and you want to continue to live in Manhattan, you can't do it because the rents are so high and it's so difficult to actually find a co-op, if you will. And once you're in a place in New York, it's not like California. They can kick you out they can't kick you out. You have actual rights. 80% of the people who are there are voters. You have real rights as a renter. The landlord can't just come along and do what our landlord did to us, which was just, you've lived here long enough and it's time for me to do something about it, and you can't live here forever, and, time to go. And, that sort of thing. So, number one, she doesn't have another place to live. Number two, there were suggestions that she actually go to a women's shelter. Now, this is where it gets weirder. Is that most of the abuse that's going on by him is mostly psychological. It's just because the Japanese are, again, should I say, the Japanese are, a weird psychosexual sort of culture. I mean, it's absolutely true that they have vending machines with like women's pants that you can actually buy, sell, and all that. They have a completely different aspect as far as the West goes, when it comes to gambling, when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to men very much being the dominant aspect in the culture. In Japan, men come first, women come second, as they said in James Bond, You Only Live Twice. But the other thing is that she then pulls her sleeves up, and she has scars up and down either arm from her slicing herself, from her cutting herself. And it goes all the way. It starts at the wrist and goes all the way up. And I'm like, like the Strange Universe Radio. So that's the end of the story. I didn't mean to go too far into it, but my wild adventures in New York City. Once again, messing with protesters. While the cops were watching the protesters, I went over and did like comedy routines for the police. I'm making them laugh while these protesters are jumping up and down, abusing the police. And the New York guys are like, hey man, we just throw you on the ground and frisk you. To which I suggested that a great protest for that, for stop and search, is to fill your pockets with pudding, and that'll stop the cops dead. So my friend Sharon comes over. It's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm dead beat, and she's showing. I am agog in horror at the fact that she's now sliced up her arms and has been doing this cutting thing for however long, to inflict pain on yourself to make some other pains go away. And I've known a couple of other girls who played with knives and done this kind of thing. And I don't really understand the behavior outside of their own, pain tolerance or something, or maybe inducing endorphins or whatever. So the idea behind this was there are two processes that you can do for this. First off, I tried to explain to her that her being in essence enslaved by this Japanese guy, and even the fact that she went back to Australia for like 6 months and did get away from him, went back to Australia, then came back and just fell under a spell once again. And certainly there's also, as I said, something sexual that's going on there as well that has to be sadomasochistically based of some kind. That because that's what a lot of Japanese men go for. At least from knowing some of their women over there. So it's, they do like the rough stuff. So, there were two processes that can be done. One is actually interesting because it's what we call, and it's not as violent as it sounds, but it's called the Tibetan whip. And what happens is, which does sound like a topping for pumpkin pie, but, it has, the aspect of actually taking the ka, if you will, out of the ba. And what you meditate on in monasteries is you meditate on a sphere of life force, of energy, if you will. And you take this sphere of life force, and it has to do with actually touching a point at the base root chakra. These are what they call J points at the base root chakra, and then a point directly at the roof of the mouth, which actually, if you take your tongue and put your tongue up at the top of the roof of your mouth, you can actually directly connect. You connect directly to the pineal gland. You're actually sending energy and information up into the pineal gland as well. And then you can take the essence of the person out and you slam it back into their bodies, and there's a row of past lives that will appear if you've been trained to see these. You can slam it back into their bodies, and then it just kind of goes brrr, where you have what looks like a row of people standing in a queue that are different aspects of your past lives and previous existences. There's one other meditation as well that you can do where you can actually take that person and you try to then go backwards along their timeline. For example, you go, when was the last time that you suffered this kind of abuse, or you felt trapped or abused, and the time before that, and the time before that. And then you try to get back to a core experience of this humiliation, I guess. Because the weird thing about the human mind is that we're not as smart as rats. Because rats in an experiment, if you put them in a maze, a rat will go down a particular trail. And if there's no cheese at the end of that trail, then the rat won't go down that trail anymore. They'll go down the trail where they find the cheese. And they will learn the maze very, very quickly if there's cheese or some kind of reward at the end. The weird part about the human mind is that the human mind doesn't care if there's cheese or reward at the end of a particular set of actions. All that the human mind is concerned with is that it's physically survived. In other words, I went down that path. I wasn't eaten by a tiger. Therefore, I'm going to go down that path again and again and again and again. And so once again, it becomes to the mind, everything is the same. Everything is the same as something, as is the same as something, as is the same as something, except sometimes. So if you're bitten by a dog when you're younger, you think all dogs bite, except sometimes. There'll be exceptions to the rule of the dogs biting. But the challenge with her is that then, and there's another interesting thing, is that if you go back and you focus on a silver ring. And in this meditation, you go all the way back and you try to not make your birth a start point, actually an ending or a beginning point. And you go back through your birth, and then you dive through a silver ring. And actually, if you want to go into the future, you go through this golden ring at the end of your life. But that gets very uncomfortable because then you go through experiencing your own death. But when you go back through the silver ring, you kind of go through a void, if you will. And then if you're focusing on one particular thing, you'll land in a lifetime or in an existence where you can see a relationship being played out. And there was, for example, in her case, where she was the man and he was the woman, and now she was sort of back getting revenge. But there was a repeat of this that over a couple of lives, them kind of switching back and forth. It's like, one pitching, one catching, one being the whipper, the other one being the whippy, if you will. And she came to a much better understanding of the scope of what was going on with her relationship. And also when you can see that these things pick up energy and power as you go down through time. Because again, there really isn't anything, you just have to really make clear with this, there really isn't anything as past lives. We think of past lives. But the minute you talk about, quote, past lives, unquote, you begin to empower the concept of death. Because, again, we all start in eternity past with the creation, with the whatever the first thought is, whether or not it's the Big Bang, or we all come in through the Ring Nebula, or whether or not the universe phases into existence. One way or another, we're there at the first thought, with the Creator Mother, the Creator Father, and the creation of the Creator Son for this particular universe. And we're all part of that hologram. We're all part of that matrix. So we're all there in eternity past with the first thought, and we will be there. We will be there in the eternity future when time and space, as we know it, collapse in on itself and everything ends. But, we being finite beings can't actually fathom the nature of something that is infinite, if you will. Now, a lot of people talk about that there are old souls and young souls. Not true. Everybody's really the same age, soul-wise. It's just some souls pay attention in class, and others just don't. So, yes, you can say there's smart ones that are the kids that do their homework, and there's stupid ones that always fail at the end and get shot back down the snake and ladder of the evolutionary curve. Those are the people that get sort of drained out when the Son of God comes along and decides that the gene pool needs a little more chlorine. So in this case, she actually had the experience of her previous aspect, is what I call it, because once again, there is no death. You go from one point to another transitional space, and then you go through a series of bardos, as we call them in Tibetan Buddhism. You go through a series of bardos, and then you decide, who and what you want to ride back in on, so to speak. If you are conscious in those bardo spaces, you will ride in and have a higher birth, and things will be a little easier for you, maybe. But if you're unconscious, you'll get sucked into the first couple at the orgy walking in the door, and it's like, then you ride in on that. So one of the things that she had going on for her was that she came to a realization of her previous existences and what was going on with her and him throughout this path. So, and I'll keep you updated as to what's going on with her, because, even I was saying, well, look, go to a women's shelter. Maybe there's people in the city that I can help you with if you really want to get away from this guy. But it does sound like she's interconnected and or addicted to the psychosexual sadomasochistic aspect of their relationship, which is addicting. It's a form of dopamine and a series of chemicals that are released by the brain in certain highly intense sexual experiences, especially if you cast yourself into that web of the pain and pleasure, the slap and tickle, which is now becoming so much more popular again with the whole 50 Shades of Grey thing, which is like, well, I'd like to toss you across my desk and ravage you 12 ways to Sunday. Oh no, well, how about on my private jet? Well, ride 'em, cowboy, why not? So there it is. And I have to tell you one funny story, and that's kind of a tragic lady friend story. Another one which I think is hilariously funny, and I have to tell JP this, and I'm not even sure how this is going to relate on the radio, but I just found it so immensely entertaining. I was talking to once again a lady friend of mine who was a long time ago. We've been friends for many, many years, and she was an old college girlfriend, but we've stayed friends all this time. So she was bragging about the fact that her current boyfriend was apparently immensely endowed. And she was bragging on the fact that she was lovely, because she's a very tall girl. She's like 6 feet. or 5'12", as they call it. A very tall girl. And she found this boyfriend who apparently she was enjoying the fact that his member was particularly large. And so I thought it was very funny because she then tells me, well, she says, well, my boyfriend's name is Peter. And I thought that was very funny that his name was Peter, first off, and that she was bragging about the fact that his member was particularly large and that she enjoyed it. And so she said, well, yes, well, we call him Big Peter and Little Peter. And I said, wait a minute, you're telling me that and the other thing is that he apparently is just scraping the underside of like 5'4", but is immensely endowed. And so she tells me that you call him Big Peter, Little Peter. And I'm like, wait a minute, your boyfriend named his penis, gave him his own name. And she goes, no, he's only 5'4". We call him Little Peter. The other one's Big Peter. And I just thought I don't know why I thought that was the funniest thing ever. But I guess you had to have been there. Man.
Yeah, it's a strange universe. Definitely.
Yeah, it is a strange universe. Look, I got enough trouble for talking about, Fappy, the self-raped dolphin, last time, which was a fake story, okay? It was one of those onion stories that kind of took us by surprise, and we had a good laugh over it. But apparently there were people in the chat room going, well, I'm not going to give money to Revolution Radio. Not like they ever do. Not like anybody ever actually contributes. We've got millions of people who listen to the station. I don't think anybody gives us a dime. And once again, Fappy, the self-raped dolphin, was fake. But upon that, after an outcry in Britain, they've now barred a pickup artist from actually entering Britain. And it's the first time. This is from London. This is a real story, by the way. This is actually from the New York Times. Not a fake site like the National Reporter or something. But Julian Blanc became possibly the first man ever who has been denied a visa into Great Britain on the grounds of sexism. Mr. Blanc is a 25-year-old Californian. He calls himself a pickup artist, and his website promises men that he will make girls, quote, beg to sleep with you. And in an expensive dating boot camp held around the world, he shares tips about gaming and grabbing women, including casually pulling their heads towards your crotch. Sounds like something Bill Cosby should be teaching. The latter technique works particularly well in Japan. Mr. Blanc recently told an audience of men in Tokyo, if you're a white male, you can do what you want. And that was in Tokyo, mind you. Okay, and to which they replied, what? Konnichiwa. Amid a public outcry over his abusive techniques, which some say verge on rape promotion, and an online petition with over 150,000 signatures, the British government on Wednesday barred Mr. Blanc from entering the country for a series of events scheduled here. Officials said people could be denied entry on the grounds that their presence was, quote, not conducive to the public good, a rare power usually reserved for far right-wing activists and terrorism suspects. But the decision by the British Home Office came after the Australian government hastily withdrew Mr. Blanc's visa last week and forced him to leave the country. Photos he had shared on social media showing him pretending to choke a series of women went viral on Twitter under the hashtag choking girls around the world. Yeah, because that's the kind of publicity you want. Since then, women and men in several countries where he had scheduled events in the coming months, including Canada, have started campaigns to deny him entry. For now, he has canceled the remainder of his tour, describing himself as, quote, the most hated man in the world, and a nervous-looking Mr. Blanc apologized, quote, for everything, unquote, on Monday in a CNN interview. He said he had not been choking the woman in the photographs, but merely had his hands around their throats. It was all a horrible, horrible attempt at humor that had been taken out of context in a way, he said. Because posting photos of you choking women on the web is just the way to win the hearts and minds of all those around you. I just want to apologize, to anybody I've offended in any way, okay? Mr. Blanc said, But as women's rights and anti-violence campaigners point out, videos and photos of Mr. Blanc explicitly encouraging men to harass women and lower their self-confidence in order to have sex with them. One tip suggests that men make derogatory comments about other women's bodies to flatter their prey. Others recommend pretending to grieve over the recent death of a girlfriend or threatening suicide. As executive coach for Real Social Dynamics, a dating seminar company, Mr. Blanc promises to teach men how to, quote, make girls beg to sleep with you after short-circuiting their emotional and logical mind and develop panty-dropping masculinity to generate the, quote, powerful emotions that girls crave. Offers range from $197 for 23 instructional videos to a $2,000 dating boot camp. Mr. Blanc promises to teach men how to overcome, quote, last-minute resistance when women say no to sex and get them to, quote, do crazy things. You'll love this if you have any fetishes, he says. And the video clip that caused the most outrage was filmed in Tokyo and shows Mr. Blanc pulling women's faces into his crotch on the street. In one scene, he harasses a visibly distressed Japanese cashier by kissing her neck and ear. The woman who began the petition against Mr. Blanc's entry into Britain identified herself as Carolyn Charles, a pseudonym she said she was using because of the vitriol often directed towards anti-sexism campaigners on Twitter. Julian Blanc dresses up his seminars as dating advice, which at best is disingenuous. He focuses on tricking women into having sex in order to make money. All right, girls, if you're that dumb that you get tricked into having sex, is it wrong? It is wrong on every level. It is promoting violence against women's rights. It takes advantage of men, and it sends a message to survivors of sexual assault that they will not be listened to. Lynn Featherstone, Britain's crime prevention minister, said she was delighted that Mr. Blanc was not coming to Britain. If he was allowed to perform in the UK, I have no doubt that cases of sexual harassment and intimidation would increase. Others have a different view. On Twitter, Jojo Moyes, a novelist, said, quote, might have been more effective for women to buy up all the seats and just laugh at him. See, now that's what they would have done in Canada. In Canada, they don't do this stuff because they just mock you. Once again, ladies, if you're dumb enough to fall for a lot of this stuff, and again, I knew a guy, I knew one of these guys who was a, quote, he wasn't so much a friend as I found him amusing. I would sort of hang out with him, and I would just kind of sit there and listen while he just blabbed away. But he actually ran these dating seminar websites, and I did a news piece on him when I was working for Hard Copy a long time ago, and I did an interview with him, which I thought was fair. I let him do whatever it is he was going to do. He had a couple of women in the video that he had to pay to actually be in the video. I find out later, and unbeknownst to me, one of the other people at Hard Copy, they went ahead and interviewed a girl who actually worked in the office, who was saying, oh, this is the worst kind of rape, and it's a form of hypnosis and all this other stuff, which I had nothing to do with. And then the guy wouldn't talk to me anymore, which was kind of fine by me because he was such a jerk. But it just has to do with the art of successful conversation. Are you? And let me tell you, you want me to give you the biggest secret? Here's the biggest secret, guys. The biggest secret to picking up women, getting along with women, loving women, whatever it is that interesting people are boring. Interesting people are boring as hell. They're people that should just be taken out and shot. The Commander McBraggs of the world. Oh, yes, I shot a white elephant in my pajamas. What he was doing in my pajamas, I'll never know. If you remember, this is an old cartoon a long time ago where Commander McBragg would get up.
Oh, Commander McBragg. Lost you again.
People.
There we go.
You ready? You got me?
We just lost you after Commander McBragg.
Oh, Commander McBragg. So Commander McBragg, who once again says, oh, I shot a great white elephant in my pajamas. What he was doing in my pajamas, I'll never know. It was an old cartoon that he would tell these outrageous stories, these outrageous tales. And at the end, something would happen where, an eagle would swoop in and grab him, and it would turn out that the story was true. But once again, interesting people should be taken out and shot. Interesting people are boring. Interesting people are megalomaniacs. Interesting people are just a giant snooze. But interested people who are interested are sexy as hell. And interested people are people who take you on a journey, who talk about the things that they're fascinated by, who take you by the hand and walk you along the yellow brick road to the Emerald City, if you will. Interested people are interested. And if they're interested in you, and they're interested in finding things out about you, or interested in new science or new technology, but interested people are always sexy. Interested people are the greatest ones. And guys, and once again, for any sort of dating advice or marrying advice or whatever, my grandmother used to say, Shawnee boy, you find yourself a woman you get along with about 80% of the time. because not even God and Jesus got along 100% of the time. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane. Oh, please let this cup pass from me. I don't want to pay for the sins of the world today. Oh, please don't want to get nailed to a tree. She says, but the Jews, bit of a whiny people, don't you know? So so that was my grandmother just being funny. And, but once again, you've got to find somebody to get along with about 80% of the time. Also, it helps if you show up on a date when you actually have a plan. There's nothing women hate more for you to show up and say, well, what do you want to do? You show up at the door, you have a plan. We're going to go to this restaurant. We're going to go to this place. We're going to go see this movie. And if she doesn't like it, then you adjust to please, if you will. The rest of it is, and actually, if you want to know the most interesting stuff about this, what these guys base all this stuff on is the guys who actually invented, and I can say the Nazis actually invented it because the Nazis invent everything. And I had something very amusing for you. JP, you there? JP, hello.
Yep, sorry, I was in the kitchen. Anyway, go on.
In the kitchen, all right.
Slicing potato, as you do.
I found a brand new book of Jew. That's back with new pollution. Once again, the moon is void of course. Hope you can make up your mind today, because it's whenever it's void of course between Aquarius and Pisces. You should have some blazingly brilliant ideas as you kind of move into this dream state of psychic sensibility. She's been a swimsuit cover model and a human trafficking victim, but Barbie has never really been touted as a working professional. The latest affront to basic decency in gender toy marketing comes from a Barbie book that tells girls they can't be game developers or programmers. The book is bafflingly called Barbie, I Can Be a Computer Engineer. It was written by Susan Marenko and published by Random House. I can't get my book published, and this kind of stuff gets published. Despite its encouraging title, Marenko's book actually tells preteen girls that Barbie can only contribute to the design of the game that she's building. Read more. Geek Girls remix that sexist Barbie book. Writer of sexist Barbie book blames Mattel. Anyway, this book released last June was paired with another career-minded book called Barbie, I Can Be an Actress. All 5 reviews for the 2 books set on Amazon are from baffled parents wondering why a story called I Can Be a Computer Engineer is sending the opposite message. In fact, according to the site's only 3-star review, the others each give 1 star. Wah, wah. It might more accurately be called, I can manipulate boys into programming while I sit back and take the credit. And here's how the 3-star reviewer Roxanne M. describes it. Quote, basically what happens is she designs a game but can't code it without her guy friend's help. Infects her own and her sister's computers with a virus by accident, LOL. Has her guy friends help her fix both of them, and then takes all the credit for the game and fixed computers in the end. Boy, you'd think that after a plot that hackneyed, Barbie would at least get a better title. After all, I Can Be a Game Designer is still a pretty cool title. But alas, as blogger and comedy writer Pamela Raban quickly discovered when she picked up the book for the first time yesterday, it isn't intended to give girls even that much empowerment. As Ribbon describes in an increasingly cringe-inducing write-up about the book, Barbie is introduced as the designer of stereotypically girly games featuring cute little bouncy animals. And Barbie's work resembles Pet Rescue or similar mobile games, not the ones real gamers make. That's okay, though, because Barbie is apparently perfectly happy with her second-class status. I'm only creating the design ideas, Barbie tells Skipper. I'll need Steven and Brian's help to turn it into a real game. She's laughing when she says it, though, so we're assumed that she's totally okay with her fate, because Barbie appears to embrace her life as a pink-clad artist who gets waylaid by cute robot puppies and never makes a dent in the actual tech culture gender gap. From there, the book unleashes a litany of sexist stereotypes already all too familiar in the world of preteen girl marketing. Barbie signals her geek cred by wearing her flash drive and a giant pink heart-shaped necklace. Too bad that flash drive actually has a virus. Barbie's also too dumb to notice that the virus exists before it crashes her computer. Maybe she doesn't have malware protection. She also can't restart her computer without her brunette sister's help. It just gets better from there. Barbie does indeed accidentally give Skipper a virus, and Skipper's reaction, as described by Ribbon, makes her sound like an alien with no investment in her schoolwork or emotional attachment to her music collection when she says, quote, "I forgot to back up my homework assignment," cries Skipper, "and all my files are lost too." "I'm so sorry, Skipper," says Barbie. "I have to run off to school now, but I promise to find a way to fix your laptop." "You better," Skipper replies as she playfully hits Barbie with a pillow. Skipper's her sister, by the way. To recap the sophisticated narrative, Skipper has just lost her homework, all her music files, and her laptop, but the only thing she can think about now is, of course, a pillow fight with her super hot sister. And later, after receiving instructions from her female computer science teacher, Barbie tries fixing her computer alone, and that's when the aforementioned Stephen and Brian arrive and tell her that things will go faster if she lets them help. Ribbon points out that while the book portrays them as perfectly nice dudes, they represent the actual systemic marginalization that she and countless other women have experienced in the tech industry. Where she says, this is angry feminist talking, "Stephen and Brian don't value design as much as code. Stephen and Brian represent every time I was talked over and interrupted, every time I didn't get a code solution in a forum because I didn't want to spend the next 72 years defending it. Stephen and Brian make more money than I do for doing the same things. At the same time, Stephen and Brian are nice guys. Boo-hoo." That's the woman reviewing the book. And as if that weren't all enough, at the end of the book, Barbie really does take all the credit for everyone else's work that Stephen and Brian do. She decides without any actual coding experience that, quote, "I guess I could be an engineer." And Ribbon notes that since the other story is juxtaposed and inverted against the engineering story, the book actually has one last passive-aggressive insult for girls reading, quote, "When you read Barbie, I Can Be a Computer Engineer, it appears that you are so effing dumb, you're reading Barbie, I Can Be an Actress upside down." Sadly, toys for girls are often blatantly offensive in their use of gendered stereotypes. Shut up, stupid. If they aren't ignored altogether in the rush to produce action figures for boys. In that context, this kind of stereotyping is to be expected from a no-name toy product. But Barbie has been running its, quote, "I Can Be" campaign for several years explicitly to help empower girls by telling them they can be everything, from professional surfers to the president. But that's why it's called fantasy. Sure, it's just class president, but we'll cut her some slack, assuming she didn't bribe boys to vote for her by offering to let them undo her perky pink hair bow. At some point, maybe Mattel should just quit fronting and abandon the pretense that Barbie, whose body proportions are so unrealistic that a woman reportedly removed 2 of her ribs just to try to match them, has anything empowering to offer young girls. Mattel has already featured Barbie on the Sports Illustrated cover, and after that, no amount of career ambition can mask where her true cultural values lie. Sadly, it's not her programming skills. Okay, right. Oh, well, you know what she needs? She needs an Oriental boyfriend, because once you go Asian, you know math equations. So there we go. Okay, since we're on the topic of puppy rescue, see the segue? Huh? See?
I was just gonna do this.
There we go. Thank you. And now, I should probably just say, and now. Hit it again. And now.
This is Wolf Spirit Radio.
Which is the wrong thing. And now. No. There we go. Now, here's a bad place. That's very good. Thank you very much. So I've got 2 now. I can say, and now, this is Wolf Spirit Radio, which is not, or I get the Batman sting. So there it is. And in this news upstate, Louisiana town to kill all pit bulls and Rottweilers. Those who don't surrender face police action. Mooresville, Louisiana is an evil, evil place. A town in Louisiana has recently voted, the town has voted, to ban all pit bulls and Rottweilers, calling them, quote, vicious breeds of dogs. Current owners of these specific breeds have just 1 more month to either move out of town or hand their family pet over to the government to be killed. While there has traditionally been heavy debate over larger breeds of dogs in recent years, the debate has begun to die down because an overwhelmingly majority of people now agree that, like humans, a dog's temperament and personality are largely based on their upbringing and life experiences. Unless you're Scottish, of course, and then you just are the way you are. Sadly, town officials in Mooresville, Louisiana, are now stuck in a very immature state of mind where they are basically now prejudiced against entire breeds of dogs. Wow, they sound like the Ferguson, Missouri police. Dog owners were notified of the recent ordinance by mail in a letter which stated that the dogs will be taken away by the local government and killed on December 1st. The letter reads, quote, to all pit bull and Rottweiler owners, please be informed that the village of Moreville, M-O-R-E-A-U-ville, Moreville, all right, there you go, is enforcing the ordinance that was passed on October 13th, 2014, that bans pit bulls and Rottweilers within the corporate limits of Moreville, Louisiana. You are hereby given notice that you have until December 1st, 2014, to remove your pit bulls or Rottweilers from your premises. If your pit bulls or Rottweilers are not removed by this date, your animals will be impounded and transported to a veterinary clinic for further disposition. You will also be fined for violating the ordinance. Wow.
Isn't that what they did in Germany?
Yeah, very much so. KALB News, Channel 5, asked town official Pen Limon why the ordinance was put into place and if there were any documented dog attacks in the area to justify the recent decision. Limon responded by saying that there were dog attacks, but they were not documented. So there's no proof, basically. And he claimed that these specific breeds of dogs were running the street and frightening neighbors, even though he has no proof of this actually happening. We had several residents that were complaining about not being able to walk along the neighborhoods because these dogs are basically running along town. Well, then you punish the person who commits the crime. You round up those dogs. When asked about the disposing of the dogs, Limon attempted to dodge the question by saying, I'd rather not elaborate on that. When pressed further about whether or not the government was going to be killing the animals, Limon finally admitted, if that's what the ordinance says, then that's what it says. Some local residents are refusing to go along with the new ordinance and have promised not to back down easily. They're going to have to take him from my cold, dead hands before they get a hold of him, Pitbull owner O'Hara Owens said. Now, Brooke Buford, you sure the sheriff of this town isn't like Buford Pusser or Buford T. Justice? Brooke Buford of the local NBC News affiliate reports, O'Hara Owens is trying to spend as much time as he can with her beloved pit bull, Zeus, before the village she lives in promises to take him away from her and dispose of him on December 1st. If anything ever happened to him, I would just shut down, she said. O'Hara suffers from severe neck problems and has been forced to wear a halo brace and use a wheelchair. She also says that Zeus acts as her therapy dog, providing love and support for her and her brothers and sisters. I can sit there if I'm in pain. He comes and he notices it before I even make a noise. But Zeus has been blacklisted as a vicious breed in Moreville. The Olsen family has also started a petition which hopes to overrun the ordinance. If you are interested in signing the petition, please visit this link. Here's what you need to do. I don't know if anybody, I'm actually going to visit this link and actually see if I can contact any of these people. Save Zeus has been placed on a vicious dog ban, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Well, if I can contact any of these people, here's what you do. You have something like this that occurs where they pass a city ordinance where they're basically taking your property away without, first off, there are so many laws that this violates. A town can't simply just pass an ordinance as an example and relieve you of property without just compensation. That's number one. Number two, what every single one of these people need to do is they simply list their dog on a UCC1 filing, a Uniform Commercial Code filing, and you place a lien on your pet. You basically lay claim to him. You actually now have paperwork that shows, okay, Zeus, who is a tan pit bull with a brown nose and a spot on his back or whatever, you present this to the local cops and they can't relieve you of your property, number one, without either reimbursing you for the value of whatever the property is and or, once again, without due process. So this is relieving people of their property without due process. It's just patently absurd on just so many different levels. It's, this is why Uniform Commercial Code law exists. This is how you get around all this stuff. So if anybody knows any of these people in this town in Louisiana, and I'm actually going to see if I can try to contact one of them and say, go online. If you're not too dumb to figure out how to work a computer and actually go to the Uniform Commercial Code website of your state, you can actually then file a UCC lien on your animal, which gives you highest title to that animal. And, it stops an ordinance like this. You can actually do the same with your guns as well. I mean, there's more ordinances about them. But once again, you can't be relieved of your property. It's a total violation of, Fourth Amendment, everything else that goes on there.
I've always thought that the gun registration thing would be a silly thing because that's what they did in Germany, and they just went all to all the places where people had guns and they confiscated them, and then they killed everybody.
So they did in Poland. That's what they did. That's what they did in every communist country they took over. They would just go right to City Hall. They would find all the gun registrations, go to the houses where the people had the guns, and round them up. And you're absolutely right. And it's another one of those things like illegal immigration. There's no rational explanation for it. If guns are out there and somebody commits a crime with a gun, you punish the person that commits the crime, not take everybody's gun away because one idiot has a gun. I mean, I've left my gun loaded in my house once, and it didn't go out on the street and start killing everybody while I was gone. It actually takes an idiot behind it to actually do it. So it's just, there's no real excuse for it. And again, it's a complete violation of the Second Amendment of the right to keep and bear arms. And it all started way back in the day where the Supreme Court decided that they could ban, I think, sawed-off shotguns. And then they just started from there. So anyway. America's Nuclear Command Meltdown. Now, this is Gordon Duff, who is the senior editor of Veteran Times. And, it's an interesting website. It's come under some fire recently for a lot of things they've had there, but here's the editor's note. This is from Gordon Duff. He says, "You just can't make this stuff up, folks. Right-wing email lists are being worked to spin the continued cleanup of the nuclear command for the most obvious security reasons as some sort of anti-military Obama's revenge on the Air Force. Left out of this charge is even a peep about where do the Joint Chiefs fit into this scenario. After all, they are running the investigation and making recommendations for these actions, with all of it going past General Dempsey's desk before it gets to Obama's. Even savvy, let me see, we're talking about this. We're talking about even savvy internet readers get sucked into the hype. All those who are very unhappy with Obama are easily profiled by Google, so the email list pros know exactly who to shovel the propaganda manure out to. They know that as long as it hurts Obama, the readers don't really care too much if it's true or not. Most are patriotic Americans, big on national defense." So he says Veteran Times ran a whole series of articles about a lot of this during the late summer. We did get one call from mass media. We did not get one call from mass media, nor one politician wanting to know more about this historic event. The story got the ostrich treatment from those who should have been happy that someone else had done the heavy lifting. One can understand they're being scared, but they're being cowards. So while the U.S. is negotiating with Iran, this is November 22nd of 2014, while the U.S. is negotiating with Iran over its nuclear program, and American lawmakers like Senator John Insane and the membrane McCain calling for preemptive strikes on America's ally Pakistan, where we've killed about 1,900 people with drones, by the way, in a country that's supposed to be friendly to us. America's own nuclear weapons program is suffering from not only failures in command, but inventory shortfalls as well. And this week, Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel is expected to announce the entire restructuring of America's nuclear weapons force based on findings of two studies, one from within the military, the other highly secret, has examined over 2 decades of espionage. Yes, man, it's when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, and peace will rule the planets, and love will steal the stars. We are the squirrels. We are the children. Big hit song. Say the squirrels. Michael Shrimpton actually has revealed a great deal recently about nuclear weapons and all that. And in Britain, something even stranger is going on related to nuclear weapons. Barrister and author Michael Shrimpton is on trial in London for making, quote, a hoax nuclear weapons threat against the London Olympics, or so it is being reported by the press. The truth is, as usual, somewhat different. Shrimpton, working with reporters from the UK Guardian, a former head of Military Intelligence Division 5, or MI5, which is the British version of the FBI, and an engineer involved in the mysterious South African nuclear program, have been tracking a series of missing nuclear weapons built in South Africa, but purchased by Britain through authorization of then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The transaction was negotiated by Dr. David Kelly and his young assistant David Cameron, now Prime Minister of Britain. David Kelly, as you know, David Kelly, as you know, died mysteriously in a car accident. There are some people say the car accident, along with his family, was in fact faked. But as some will note, David Kelly is said to have killed himself in 2003 using over-the-counter pain relievers. But a number of prominent forensic pathologists have declared Kelly's death now murder. And Kelly was a strong critic of then British Prime Minister Tony Blair. In 2005, in a Guardian article by Tim Shipman, it was cited that of the 10 nuclear weapons built by South Africa, 1 was tested, 6 were dismantled by America, and 3 were bought by Britain and were missing, with one of the missing having made its way to North Korea. Shrimpton's trial is about a missing nuclear weapon and his prosecution part of a government cover-up. Shrimpton's claims about a German secret society and weapons recovered from the Kursk, which was a Russian submarine which supposedly sank, may seem far-fetched, but an IAEA official cites a U.S. NEST, which is Nuclear Energy Security Team, being dispatched to the UK to recover nuclear weapons during the Olympics. Now, Secretary of Defense Chief Chuck Hagel, however, has more serious problems. The most serious, and the one spoken of least, is that the missing weapons inventory. Sources of the highest levels of the IAEA and Department of Energy have confirmed that all records of nuclear warheads retired from service under the START, Strategic Arms Limitation Treaties, beginning in 1992, all of the START nuclear weapons are missing. And in a leaked portion of the Able Danger documents, it is revealed that the Department of Energy may well have both destroyed records leading to the theft of 350 nuclear warheads and supplied thieves with highly classified information as to the technical specifics of decaying nuclear pits, information that will allow otherwise useless nuclear weapons to be remanufactured. When the U.S. government under Clinton shut down the investigation in 1998 and issued gag orders on all those involved, former President George H.W. Bush set up a private team headed by his close friend Roland Carnaby, who was his protege at the CIA. Carnaby and team members were able to trace an operation headed by Victor Bout, the Lord of War, a CIA-affiliated arms trader, removing nuclear pits from the Pantex storage facility in Texas. Documents outline the specifics, the use of refrigerated trucks, pit storage at a packing plant, the pits being sorted by physicists working inside a fertilizer plant outside the town of Waco, Texas, and the weapons being shipped via the Canary Islands, Africa, and then on to Israel. And the Able Danger investigation traced weapons brought into New York before 9/11 and maintained surveillance on combined teams that included American, Israeli, and Saudi personnel, some of whom were arrested on 9/11. As a matter of fact, 150 Israeli and Mossad intelligence agents were arrested. They were held for 6 months and then let go. But arrests were quickly covered up. Some involved, including the Israeli team that placed jammers that disabled emergency responder radios, were held for some weeks before being repatriated. Other teams tasked with destroying the George Washington Bridge and the Lincoln and Holland tunnels were arrested but flown out of the country on the orders of President George W. Bush. Sources say Bush was being blackmailed. The same source, highly placed, claims Cameron's failure to act on the Olympic nuclear threat was blackmail-related also, explaining why the British government would risk so much in prosecuting Michael Shrimpton. Note that Shrimpton was arrested after reporting being told of a terror threat. His report was made to MI6 on a telephone line intended to be used by the public to report terror threats. But in 2008, Roland Carnaby was murdered. In 2013, the fertilizer plant was destroyed in one of the largest explosions since Hiroshima. Arms trader Victor Bout was extradited to the United States and has not been seen since. Dmitry Kalazov had originally broken the story of nuclear proliferation and terrorism. Kalazov is currently imprisoned in Thailand at the request of the United States government. So there it is. Now, a couple of different things here. Actually, always had a battle with, here's just an interesting case in point. Had a battle with soft drinks. I actually have something that I created that I want to make world famous. If Somerset Maugham had the Singapore Sling, Rudyard Kipling had the Mai Tai. My contribution to modern literary drinks is half Sprite, half soda. Sprite is too sweet. Club soda is too sour. Half Sprite, half soda. And I call it the Spoda for people who are Spoda go to work. But by the way, Coke is the most valuable brand in history, and Coca-Cola is the world's second most recognized word after hello. However, the beverage itself is like a poison to the human metabolism. Coke is very acidic. It's only 1 point higher. It's only 1 point higher on the pH scale than battery acid. Consequently, it can clean surfaces equivalent to and often better than many toxic household cleaners. It's also cheaper and easy.
Did you also know it was really salty? There's loads and loads of salt in it, and they put sugar in it so you don't taste the salt, and you get that.
Wow. Well, it's cheaper and easier to buy Coke in some third world countries than it is to actually access clean water. So Coke uses public relations propaganda to convince consumers and entire nations that it is an environmental company when really it's linked to pollution, water shortages, and disease. People who consume soft drinks such as Coke have a 48% increase in heart attacks and stroke risk compared to people who do not drink sodas at all or do not drink them every day. A study published in the journal Astrology reveals that soft drink consumption is also associated with lung and breathing disorders, including asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. And on top of all this, there's certain things that Coke does to the human body when you drink it. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can figure this out here.
There's this thing. What happens to your body 10 minutes after drinking Coca-Cola or something like that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But what's interesting about all this stuff? It's like a lot of the sweeteners that are used are toxic. Even the one that they use just like in sugar, which is what do you call that? The high fructose syrup.
I think, yeah, corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, so the corn is made from GMO corn from Monsanto, and it's full of Roundup.
Right.
And so it's basically a concentrated form of Roundup in the sugar, and that's one of the things that's hurting people. But they name it all sorts of weird diseases and give all sorts of weird drugs to sort of suppose to treat it. But it's actually poisoning from the Roundup that's in the high fructose corn syrup.
Well, Roundup is a pesticide that's made by Monsanto, and they've actually lobbied Congress to be the only product on the market that does not have to tell you what's actually in it. You will notice there are no ingredients on a bottle of Roundup if you take a look at it. So, but a sip of soda, how soft drinks impact your health. Asthma, you have sodium benzoate, which is found in sodas, is used as a preservative, microbial control in foods. Sodium preservatives add sodium to the diet, that's the salt that you're talking about, and reduce the availability of potassium. Some reported reactions to sodium benzoate include recurring rash, asthma, and eczema. Each day, 11 Americans die from soda. The annual cost of asthma to the healthcare system is an estimated $18 billion. Colas contain high levels of phosphoric acid, which has been linked to kidney stones and other renal problems. You are more likely to get kidney stones if you are male, Caucasian, and very overweight. 20 minutes after drinking a soda, your blood sugar spikes, causing an insulin burst, and your liver responds to this by turning any sugar into fat. 40 minutes later, caffeine absorption is your blood pressure rises as a response. Your liver dumps more sugar into your bloodstream. The adenosine receptors in your brain are now blocked, preventing drowsiness. 45 minutes later, your body ups your dopamine production, stimulating the pleasure centers of your brain, and this is physically the same way heroin works, by the way. Obesity, the relationship between soft drink consumption and body weight is so strong that researchers calculate that for each additional soda consumed, the risk of obesity increases 1.6 times. 70% of cardiovascular disease is related to obesity. 42% of breast and colon cancer is diagnosed in obese individuals. 30% of gallbladder surgery is also related to obesity. It also dissolves tooth enamel. Sugar and acid in soft drinks easily dissolves the enamel, and when tooth decay reaches the nerve, the root, and the area at the base of the tooth may die, and if left untreated, an abscess can develop. Most soft drinks contain high fructose corn syrup, a sweetener that's recently come under considerable scrutiny. High fructose corn syrup has been associated with an increased risk of metabolic syndrome, a condition associated with an elevated risk of both diabetes and heart disease. Yes?
I've just dropped 2 links about that in the chat.
In 2006, more than 1 in every 4 deaths were caused by heart disease. Soft drinks cans are coated with a resin that contains BPA, which is called bisphenol A. And this is the same cancer-causing chemical found in plastic baby bottles, water bottles, plastic containers that wreaks havoc on the endocrine system, potentially causing premature puberty and reproductive abnormalities. 99.9% of plastic bottles contain BPA. And osteoporosis. Soft drinks contain phosphoric acid, and a high phosphate diet has been associated with bone breakdown and an increased risk of osteoporosis. When phosphorus is excreted in the urine, it takes calcium with it, depriving the bones and the rest of the body of this important mineral. So an increased risk of diabetes. For those who drink more soda, have an 80% increased risk of type 2 diabetes. And if that's not dangerous enough, you don't think the government's helping you. From the Natural News site, relatively new to the food products market, Dr. Bronner's Magic Soaps, which I've been using for years, which is a Southern California-based family company famous for its organic fair trade, Pure Castile soaps, has come under scrutiny by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for merely sharing with its customers the proven health benefits of eating extra virgin coconut oil. The FDA sent a letter to Dr. Bronner's on July 8th, 2014, warning that its magic all-in-one fresh-pressed virgin coconut oil had suddenly transformed somehow into an unapproved drug based on one simple health claim indicated on its packaging. By selling its coconut oil with the stated claim, maintains the FDA, Dr. Bronner's engaging in the sale and distribution of an illegal drug. Now, if you look at Dr. Bronner's soaps, you will notice that the labels are famous for the fact that they have all kinds of, they've got everything from Bible verses to support fair trade to there's all kinds of little sayings and adverbs and proverbs and verses and everything you can imagine is squeezed onto the labels of these bottles. The bottles are very entertaining to read. So how they managed to find one particular claim on, I would say, 1,000 words or so that are actually slammed into these labels is beyond me. Based on our review of the product label, we've determined that your product is promoted for conditions that cause it to be a drug under Section 201G1B of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. How about something that's actually a drug be classified as a drug? How about coconut oil you can't classify as a drug? How about vitamins you can't classify as drugs because they're water soluble? How about the fact that there are actual scientific protocols and standards for what can be considered a drug? And virgin coconut oil isn't one of those things. Claims the FDA in its letter, introducing or delivering this product for introduction into interstate commerce for such uses violates the act. Which means that Bonner just needs to change his label. He needs to get off his high horse and just figure out something. He's now expecting to be, I don't know, attacked by the feds or something. So, once again, sir, you change your status. Anyway, so what dastardly thing did Dr. Bronner print on its coconut oil label that sent the FDA into regulatory enforcement hyperdrive? Here is the original health claim as it was printed on the Magic all-in-one fresh-pressed virgin coconut oil label before Dr. Bronner's voluntarily removed it. And by the way, as I said, it was probably a small phrase that was tucked in. I mean, their labels are just dense with text. It's just they squeeze everything in there. But here's what it said. It said, clinical research confirms that the saturated medium-chain fatty acids, MCTs, in virgin coconut oil, such as lauric acid, actually improve blood cholesterol by increasing the ratio of HDL to LDL cholesterol, unquote. That's it. But here's what's happening. Now you're getting in the way of Lipitor. Now you're getting in the way of the pharmaceutical companies. Now they're beginning to realize that if you take virgin coconut oil, you don't have to take Lipitor. You don't have to take billions, if not trillions of dollars in heart medication medicine. And to the FDA, this simple statement, which is thoroughly backed by peer-reviewed science, suggests that extra virgin coconut oil is a drug, as only drugs are capable of affecting human health.
What about food?
Yeah, apparently food has no effect on us whatsoever. In fact, the FDA's position based on this claim is that Dr. Bronner's Magic All-in-One Fresh-Pressed Virgin Coconut Oil is unsafe, unless, of course, Dr. Bronner is willing to pay off the agency to declare it safe with an expensive new drug application. And by the way, what are called INDs, which are new drug applications, usually with the application and then the testing and then the double-blind testing, they usually take somewhere to the tune of about $14 million, I think, to bring to the market. And that was like 30 years ago. The science is already freely available. In one animal study, the MCTs in coconut oil were found to lower serum cholesterol levels in rats and calves, as well as cholesterol in the liver and other tissues. Generally speaking, MCTs have demonstrated anticoagulation effects, meaning they can help prevent the development of arterial sclerosis and cardiovascular disease. Now, Dr. Ward Dean, MD, has compiled an extensive listing of the health benefits associated with MCTs, and it's available through the Nutrition Review. But the health claims made by Dr. Bronner's about the cholesterol moderating effects of coconut oil are most definitely true, but the FDA refuses to acknowledge this, insisting that coconut oil be redefined as a drug so that it now falls under the agency's regulatory jurisdiction. And in order to tell the truth about coconut oil, in other words, Dr. Bronner's has to get permission from the FDA first, permission that is only granted alongside a large cash payment to them. The FDA says sponsors of new drug applications must demonstrate substantial evidence of the drug's clinical benefits, with substantial evidence being defined as adequate and well-controlled investigations by qualified experts. These investigations tend to cost tens of millions of dollars to conduct in ordinance with the FDA's requirements, meaning they typically don't occur for natural foods and substances because you can't patent them. And as a result, the public is deliberately kept in the dark about the health benefits of ordinary foods like coconut oil and the various substances derived from these foods, all thanks to the heavy-handed enforcement of unjust regulatory requirements by an agency with a cunning anti-nutrition agenda. By the way, Dr. Bronner's recently issued a press release in response to a food safety news article on the subject, which made incorrect claims. That article accused Dr. Bronner's of hiding trans fat in their coconut oil, and the food safety news article was taken down after its inaccuracies were pointed out. And Dr. Bronner's press release can now be viewed at news@yahoo.com. Yeah.
Yahoo is the operative word, really, there.
Yeah, exactly.
There nothing can be done with these agencies that say, this is not food, this is a drug, like walnuts and stuff.
Unfortunately, they can classify it. I have personal experience with this. My mother wrote a book called Foods That Heal, which is actually still used as an encyclopedia in most health food stores. And we went through this when we were dealing with a vitamin called Laetrile, otherwise known as B17. And in the early 1970s, we were finding that B17, which is just defatted, it's concentrated apricot pits, really. It's primarily found in apricot pits, apple seeds, green lettuce, broccoli, anything that's green, and it actually has what we call natural cyanide and benzaldehyde that's actually linked into a chemically inert state with two other sugar molecules. And the bottom line is that B17 was being found to prevent cancer. And for example, because
all of those things that you just stated are normal food.
Of course.
And it's because we're not eating normal food that we get cancer. If you eat normal food, everything's fine. If you look at where cancer starts. Cancer, there's no animal in the wild that has ever been found to have cancer. It's only when they're domesticated and they eat the same crap that human beings do that they get cancer. And when you actually if you look at the sugar consumption levels, and actually the number one consumer of sugar is the food processing industry. They're the ones that pack everything in sugar. Everything canned is packed in sugar. All fruit is packed in sugar. The number two user of sugar in the United States that most people don't realize is the tobacco industry. One of the reasons why American cigarettes are or have been so addictive in the past is because all of the tobacco is actually cured in sugar. Along with alcohol, as an example. All American beer is cured like crazy with sugar. If you go to Germany, the brewmeisters there in Germany, they wear the leather lederhosen and all that. And during Oktoberfest, they'll actually take the beer
and pour it on the wooden bench and sit in it with the leather leather pants on. What are they called? There's a specific name for it. But then, and if they stick to the bench,
Lederhosen.
the leader hose. I'm sorry. And if they stick to the bench, then they run the brewmaster out of town because they know that he's used sugar in his process to actually to cut the fermenting time of his beer, because it's illegal to use sugar in Germany and Bavaria in beer. Here we use it like crazy. Miller High Life and Pabst and Coors and all that all use sugar in it. And the tobacco industry